Well, I mean, the loss of Derrick Henry, it's obviously it changed the Titans offense. They're not what they were, and you wouldn't expect them to be if you lose
Mhm.
arguably the best player in the NFL. They've only posted 135 more rush yards in 2 games since he was gone, but they're still playing the same brand of football, the same style of football. They're still power running an offense. They're still vertical passing off of that. And they posted wins over the Rams and the Saints,
Mhm.
consecutive wins. They've got a powerful defense that plays. When we talk about power football, we think so much of, okay, you're going to be downhill running on offense and what you do there. But on defense, their front seven is dynamic. Their front seven attacks offenses in very effective ways. And they've allowed 100 or fewer rushing yards in all but 2 games this year. You're not going to win the battle of the ground game against them. And
Mhm.
I don't think Houston can't run the ball anyway to begin with. I think they're not going to be able to do it at all. And as much as I'm on Tyrod Taylor's bandwagon, I picked him a few weeks ago thinking he'd come back and turn this offense around. He still looked rusty. They're coming off the bye, so it's possible they'll do better. But I just don't think when you've got an offense that has scored a single digit point total on 5 occasions, we saw that
Mhm.
Taylor's just not a guy who's going to be able to turn that around. Now, I'll say this. We're going to pick it. I think the line still is at minus 10.5 for Tennessee. I would, if I could, if I had the option, I'd buy it down to 10. I'd change my odds a little bit, but I would buy it down to
Mhm.
10 just to make sure didn't have that half point sitting there as a thorn in the side. I still think that Tennessee is going to be different than in Indianapolis, where Indianapolis didn't keep their foot on the floor, which is odd for them, but they didn't do it. I think they got a little complacent last week after they got ahead. I think Tennessee in this game, when they get ahead of Houston, they're going to keep ahead of Houston because I think that when I'm going late in the year, I'm looking at two things. I'm looking at if you play power football and if you and your injuries are two things I basically look for. And I think Tennessee's going to play power football and they're going to do it the whole game through because that's just the way Vrabel goes. So I think that they keep going and they're going to do like the Colts did last week against the Jags, except for they're going to keep it up for 4 quarters. And I think they win by 2 touchdowns.
Well argued, KC. Well argued indeed, but wrong. I'm sorry, my friend. It's just wrong. I think this is too many points for a Titans team that has looked very different without Derrick Henry. I agree with you. No shame in looking very different without Derrick Henry. Any team would look very different if they lost the engine of their offense. That's just how it is. And we got to give them credit where credit is due. 2-0 since losing Derrick Henry with a win over the Rams and then a win over a potentially playoff team in the New Orleans Saints. Like, that is very impressive. You got to hand it to Mike Vrabel. You got to hand it to the guys who are still left healthy in Tennessee. They've done really, really well and set themselves up to be the number one seed in the AFC. That is absolutely true, and you got to hand it to them. But they have looked a lot different, and this is a huge number to lay on a team that what they've done over these 2 wins, Casey, I'm not sure is something that is predictive of what they can continue to do. What is predictive of what they will continue to do is the fact that they have averaged 229 total yards in the 2 games that they have played without Derrick Henry. 229. If that were their full season number, that would be 50 yards behind the worst team in the NFL, which is the Houston Texans. Their yards per play over those 2 games down at 4.02. That would also be last in the NFL, zero point 0.7 yards behind the 32nd ranked Chicago Bears. This offense, Casey, frankly, has been bad since losing Derrick Henry. And this is a big, big number, regardless of opponent, when this team is still figuring out what they're going to be without Derrick Henry. That win against the Rams, yeah, a great win on paper. You can't take it away from them. But they get a really bad decision, a boneheaded play from Matthew Stafford on an interception that sets them up with first and goal from the 2. The Rams' very next play from scrimmage is a pick 6. You have to give the Titans credit for creating those plays. They got the pressure on Matthew Stafford, but he could have just held it, eaten it, had a punt, and then they're taking over at midfield rather than on the 2-yard line. The pick 6, good disguise in the defense from the Titans, but that's not something that you can say, oh, they were able to disguise the defense, fool Matthew Stafford. They're going to do that to Tyrod Taylor and get a pick 6 out of that as well. Those are just not bankable plays from week to week. And the way that they have scored over these last 2 weeks without Derrick Henry just doesn't feel to me as something that they can count on repeating week in and week out. You couple that with a spread that basically treats this as though the Titans are at full strength. It's too much for me, Casey. I like the Texans in this one.
I'm with you that the Titans are not playing anywhere near as well on offense. I just haven't seen anything from Houston's offense to make me think. I could see Houston easily putting up single digit point total again, and if they do that, then I say, okay, can Houston get to? If you're talking that the Tennessee scores 6 points, 9 points, okay, can I get can I get Tennessee to 20? I'm like, yeah, I think I could do that. That's where I'm at. But if Houston, mind you, if Houston plays, my concern about this pick, if I have one concern about this pick, is if Tyrod Taylor plays like he did in weeks 1 and 2, when he was in the first 6 weeks of the year, he played really well when he was, if that guy shows up, yeah, okay, then I don't think this game's going to go as expected. And they're coming out of a bye week for Houston, so that it's possible that they do it.
2 more weeks removed from his injury. That first game back, you and I both liked the Texans in that spot. It didn't work out for us. There was some clear rust there. Now he's 2 weeks beyond that, coming out of the bye. Woo, KC.
If he plays to that level, but they can't run the ball, they are going to be a one-dimensional team. They can't run the ball, and he was very pick-prone against when he came back against the Dolphins. I keep seeing. I want to see Houston's offense get back to where it was before, and I just don't think they'll get. This is not a game I think that they'll get there. You can give them a different contest. Hey, when they play, I think the week after this they play the Jets, and if you give them that defense, I just don't think they're going to do it against the Tennessee defense, because Tennessee defense is that dynamic, and I could see them getting a pick 6 in this game too. And if they do, again, it makes it a lot more difficult for Houston to cover. So